I have spent years observing the currents of energy that flow through men, and I have come to understand that the most potent resource we possess is not wealth, intellect, or even physical strength, but the concentrated life force that resides within us. Many chase fleeting pleasures, believing satisfaction lies in indulgence, yet they scatter their energy and weaken their capacity to create, to focus, and to influence. I learned, slowly and deliberately, that the seed of man is more than biological matter. It is the raw material of power, creativity, and insight. By choosing to preserve it, I discovered an internal alchemy. Desire transformed into clarity, lust converted into focus, and scattered impulses channeled into deliberate action. Every act of restraint became a deliberate step on a path toward mastery. A laboratory in which the raw elements of human vitality are refined into spiritual gold. In modern life, where distractions multiply daily and instant gratification has become a currency, the practice of retention became not a restriction, but a liberation, allowing me to cultivate an inner reservoir of energy that fuels work, relationships, and self-development in ways I could not have imagined when I surrendered my vitality thoughtlessly. The first weeks of practice were the hardest, for the mind and body are accustomed to surrendering energy as though it were endless. Every impulse became a test, every moment of temptation a mirror reflecting my habits, weaknesses, and patterns of distraction. At first, I questioned whether the effort was worth the cost, but slowly, I began to notice subtle shifts. My thoughts sharpened, clarity replaced mental fog, tasks that once required enormous willpower now flowed with ease, as though the energy I had contained was guiding me rather than simply residing within me. I realized that the mind and body are conduits for energy, and when that energy is squandered, they operate in diminished states. When preserved and directed, it becomes a tool for focus, allowing me to approach work, creativity, and problem-solving with an intensity that felt almost unnatural. In modern life, where attention is fragmented and stimulation constant, this internal discipline became my anchor, a source of steady power that no external circumstance could diminish. I began to understand that retention is not merely a physical practice, but a profound psychological training. Every moment of restraint illuminated the ways in which desire had been directing my choices unconsciously, shaping my moods, my relationships, and even my self-perception. I noticed how often I had sought validation, distraction, or comfort in fleeting pleasures, mistaking them for satisfaction. By preserving my energy, I reclaimed the authority to direct my focus intentionally, rather than reacting to impulses. The act of restraint became a mirror, revealing both my weaknesses and my untapped potential. I realized that sexual energy, when harnessed, is identical to creative energy. It is the same force that drives innovation, artistic expression, and personal ambition. By treating it as sacred fuel rather than expendable release, I could channel it into every aspect of my life, allowing me to act with precision, purpose, and power that had previously seemed unattainable. As the practice deepened, I noticed a transformation not only in my mind but also in my presence. People responded differently to me, colleagues, friends, and even strangers, as though they sensed an underlying composure and confidence that had not existed before. It was not arrogance, nor was it performative charm. It was the quiet magnetism of a man whose internal resources were concentrated, disciplined, and consciously directed. In a world where energy is often scattered in the pursuit of attention, pleasure, and consumption, retention created a subtle but undeniable authority. I could feel it in how discussions unfolded, in the way opportunities gravitated toward me, and in how my intuition became sharper, recognizing patterns and possibilities that others overlooked. Sexual energy, I realized, was a microcosm of all forms of vitality. And by preserving it, I had created a reservoir of power that flowed seamlessly into social influence, strategic thinking, and creative execution. I also began to understand the importance of patience, both with myself and with the process. Retention is not a simple act of withholding. It is a long, deliberate cultivation of awareness and self-mastery. Early on, frustration often arose, and moments of temptation felt overwhelming, threatening to undo the progress I had made. But each challenge became an opportunity to refine my focus and deepen my understanding of the mind-body connection. I learned to observe impulses without judgment, to feel the surge of energy and redirect it toward goals, projects, and self-improvement. This discipline carried over into every sphere of life: work, relationships, and personal development, creating a feedback loop where retained energy amplified clarity, focus, and endurance. In this way, sexual energy became a versatile resource, a form of internal currency that could be invested in meaningful endeavors rather than spent recklessly on transient pleasures. One of the most profound changes I observed was in emotional resilience. Before, I often reacted impulsively, driven by the undercurrent of unchanneled desire and distraction. Moments of stress, disappointment, or criticism could unsettle me easily. leaving my focus scattered and my energy depleted. Through retention, however, I began to cultivate a steadiness that felt almost tangible, a calm, unwavering center from which I could observe circumstances without losing myself. Sexual energy, when redirected inward, became a stabilizing force, anchoring my mind and body in ways that no external validation or material gain could achieve. The very act of preservation taught me the rhythm of moderation, the power of delayed gratification, and the clarity that emerges when impulses are understood rather than blindly indulged. In modern life, where constant stimuli vie for attention, this steadiness became a rare and valuable resource, allowing me to navigate challenges with intentionality and to act decisively when opportunities arose. I also discovered that retention amplified creativity in ways I had never anticipated. Energy that was previously dissipated through habitual indulgence now surged through my thoughts, fueling ideas, projects, and solutions. Tasks that once felt tedious became opportunities to channel focus and ingenuity, and my capacity for sustained concentration increased dramatically. I realized that sexual energy and creative energy are not separate. They are different expressions of the same life force. By consciously preserving it, I gained access to a deeper well of inspiration, one that flowed not only into professional endeavors but into artistic pursuits, strategic thinking, and problem-solving. The alchemist's seed, as I began to call it, became a laboratory within myself, a space where desire was transmuted into productivity, focus, and innovation. In retaining my energy, I was no longer a slave to impulses. I became a creator, capable of transforming the raw materials of life into forms of lasting value. Retention also transformed the way I experienced relationships. I noticed that my interactions became more intentional, more meaningful, and more grounded. Without the constant distraction of scattered desire, I could listen deeply, speak with clarity, and connect with others on a level that felt authentic and magnetic. People responded to the presence I carried, not because of charm or manipulation, but because the energy within me was coherent, balanced, and directed. The alchemist's seed allowed me to move through social spaces with a quiet authority, attracting genuine attention and respect without coercion or effort. I observed that when energy is preserved, it radiates outward, influencing the dynamics of every interaction. Relationships became mirrors of my inner discipline, and the clarity I cultivated within translated into trust, influence, and subtle yet undeniable leadership. Sexual energy, once considered purely personal, revealed itself as a force capable of shaping social realities, guiding interactions, and enhancing connection when harnessed consciously. I began to perceive retention not as deprivation, but as empowerment. In a world that encourages instant gratification, resisting habitual indulgence felt revolutionary. Each moment of restraint became a reaffirmation of sovereignty over my own life, a declaration that I would not be ruled by fleeting impulses or external pressures. This internal mastery translated directly into confidence, the kind that does not demand attention, but naturally commands it. I discovered that preserved energy magnifies presence, sharpens decision-making, and strengthens resolve, creating a feedback loop where discipline begets clarity and clarity begets further discipline. The alchemist's seed is not a static reserve. It is a dynamic engine, continually generating power when nurtured with awareness. By committing to this practice, I transformed what was once wasted effort into a sustainable and renewable source of focus, creativity, and emotional balance, equipping myself to face life's complexities with resilience and vision. Over time, I realized that the practice of retention is fundamentally about self-knowledge. It forces a man to confront the impulses, patterns, and vulnerabilities that govern his behavior, bringing into light the hidden forces that often dictate choices unconsciously. In preserving my energy, I cultivated awareness of my mind and body as interconnected systems, each influencing the other in subtle yet profound ways. I learned to observe urges without judgment, to redirect them intentionally toward projects, growth, and meaningful endeavors. The alchemist's seed is not merely a tool for personal power. It is a mirror reflecting the intricacies of one's own psyche. Through this process, I gained insight into motivation, emotional triggers, and the pathways of sustained focus. The mastery of desire became a pathway to mastering thought, behavior, and ultimately, the capacity to shape my own destiny with precision and integrity. I also came to understand that retained energy cultivates a sense of timing and discernment. When impulses are scattered, decisions are often reactive, dictated by immediate desires rather than long-term purpose. Through retention, I learned to wait, to observe, and to act only when the conditions aligned with my highest intentions. This patience did not feel like inaction. Rather, it was a deliberate alignment of energy with purpose. The alchemist's seed teaches that power lies not in constant motion, but in strategic, intentional release. By holding back what is fleeting, I could invest energy where it truly mattered, in relationships, work, and personal growth. This conscious redirection amplified results exponentially. transforming ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes, and allowing influence to emerge organically without force or compulsion. Now, after years of practicing retention and observing its effects, I see clearly that the Alchemist's seed is more than a technique, it is a philosophy of life. It teaches that true power comes from within, from the careful cultivation and conscious direction of our most vital energies. Sexual energy is not a liability to be indulged recklessly, but a resource to be transformed into clarity, creativity, focus, and influence. By preserving it, I have learned to navigate the modern world with presence, resilience, and intentionality. Relationships, work, and personal endeavors all benefit from the coherent force I now command internally. The practice is demanding, requiring patience, vigilance, and self-reflection, but its rewards are profound. A life marked by sustained energy, clear purpose, and a subtle yet undeniable authority. The Alchemist's seed is not merely about withholding, it is about transformation, the conscious conversion of desire into power, and the realization that mastery over oneself is the most enduring form of influence one can cultivate. In this modern age of distraction and excess, retention has allowed me to reclaim focus, refine creativity, and live with the quiet confidence of one who has discovered the hidden gold within. Before we conclude, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and do not forget to drop your location in the comments. I'd love to know where you are watching from. And if you ever have any questions, join our Telegram channel where we interact directly and help each other grow. The link is in the description. Please share video to your dear one. Have a powerful day.